Right. This is the one you've all been waiting for. Here it is. It's Tiletum, which is designed by Daniel Tascini and Simone Luciani, who you will know as a pair of people who have designed many games together, including the Marco Polo 1, the Marco Polo 2, the Tzolk'in, and
Tokan?
Todiwakan was Tascini. I don't think Luciani worked on it. But Luciani, of course, famous for also doing a bunch of... I mean, they've worked together on... Did they work together on... I mean, Luciani worked on the Grand Austria Hotel. He worked on the
Barrage.
Yeah,
Barrage. He also worked on Golem.
Golem, yep, that's right.
Darwin's Journey, I believe.
Oh, yes, that's right. I went... No, that was... Is that Tascini or Luciani?
That is... Hang on. It is Luciani with Nestor Mangum.
I don't recognize the second designer. But yes, I like Luciani very much.
Nestor Mangum did Autobahn, Newton, Darwin's Journey, and a couple of other things.
Well, Newton is very good.
There you go.
So, I mean, it's a heavy, crunchy Euro. So if that's your bag, Like I say, it's very easy for us to declare these games are very good. But, to be fair... It's very good if you're into heavy, crunchy Euros. And there's a sort of a school of the Italian designers, and they all work together. I know Tascini and Luciani have collaborated quite a lot, and then there were the other collaborators, which included Virginio Gigli, who do the Alma Mater, Coimbra, and some of those other ones. And there's a lot of cross-pollination in these groups. And then out of nowhere, there's Tommaso Battista, who I thought was... one of these old school designers, but Barrage was effectively his first design, a co-design with Luciani. But I guess at the same time he was also working on DEI, which is just shipped, and I have my copy of the final production copy of which I'm excited to get to. So this one is a sort of a return to this original collaboration. It's a heavy Euro game. It's a board and dice game. It's a 1 to 4 player game with a solo mode from David Surtsey, which I will never play. And it says on the box it's 60 minutes to 100 minutes, which is a complete lie. It's just straight up a lie. The art is Giorgio De Michel and Zbigniew Umgelter. And this was a review copy sent to me by Board and Dice. So thank you very much for the review copy, folks. I was very excited to get my hands on this at Essen, and I was even more excited when it showed up in the post. So, this game, actually, it looks on the surface like it borrows the same kind of system for action selection used in Grand Austria Hotel and adapted in Golem, which, if you're unfamiliar with both of these systems, the way Grand Austria Hotel works is you have 5 actions, a 6th action that's kind of a wild one. You throw a bunch of dice, and the dice are numerically sorted into the actions, and then on your turn, when you come to take an action, you pick a die associated with the action you want to take, and then the power of the action is based on the number of die that exist in the pool. So if you roll a ton of 4s, everyone's doing the same action, but it's really powerful. If you roll a bunch of different numbers, you can choose from any one of the 6 actions, but they're all less powerful. And Golem does a version of this, but instead of dice being rolled, it's marbles that are dropped into a tower. And again, the number of marbles have bearing on the power or the efficacy of the power. But actually what's interesting about that is in Grand Austria Hotel, the number of dice make a very, very key impact on the importance of the action. In Golem, it's actually more relative to when you take the marble from the marble tray, you actually get a bunch of resources based on the action you're doing. So the actions are associated with sort of gaining a resource and then also doing something with that resource. And so based on the number of marbles, you'll get some knowledge or some gold or some bricks, which is not quite as integral as to taking the actual action as the dice are to the action selection in Grand Austria Hotel. Now, the reason I preface all of this in this way is because this uses kind of a sort of a mashup of both of them, but it kind of doesn't really feel like either of them. So what this is at its heart is it's a Euro game. Most points at the end wins. There's a fixed number of rounds, and oh boy, is it just action combo. This is action chaining. You know, this is, I did the actions, and I did this one thing, and now it's given me this thing, and it's given me this thing, and now I get to do this thing, and now I'm going to do that thing over there, and on your turn, if you just did one thing, you're going to feel like you did a really bad turn. It is action chain extraordinaire. So, here we have the board, and the rondelle here, which has got the different actions on it, and these actions are going to be the different things that you can do in the game. This one here is the wild action. There's always a wild action in these designs, and what you're going to do is you're going to take a bunch of these different dice and you're going to throw them, and here's another one. But the number of dice you use will be based on the player count. Again, it's 1 to 4. And then you'll sort them, just like the other games we described, into these areas by their numbers. So this is determining where the dice actually go. And there we go. Hang on. He's getting there. There we go. So you'll throw the dice, you'll sort them into the different sections like this, and then this will tell you sort of what actions you can do and what those actions do as well. But what you're effectively going to be doing in the game is you're going to be chaining lots of actions to upgrade your player board, and it's just lots of little tied up mechanisms that are coming together. But you've got 4 different resources in the game, and these resources are tied into the color of the die. So on your turn, you're going to take a specific die, and the actual value, which has determined where the die ended up on the rondel, now determines how much of that resource you get. So if you take the blue 5, you're going to get 5 iron. If you take the yellow 5, you're going to get 5 gold. But the number also interacts with this wheel here, and this tells you, this is the mechanisms. Oh, the mechanisms, they're overpowering. You see that it's inverted, so the 6 has a 1 below it, and the 1 has a 6 below it. That's because when you take the number, it gives you that many action points. So a 6 gives you tons of resources, but only 1 action point. And a 1 is inverted. 1 resource, 6 action points. So the dice over here give you a very effective version of this action, but basically no resources, and vice versa. And this is going to rotate over the course of the game as well. So then the actions, how powerful they can potentially be, will be variable. But once you take the die and you take the resources, then you've got these action points to spend, and based on which action you took depends on what you can spend those points on. And you've got this one here, which is the merchant, and he lets you travel all over France, and you're going to be building little houses in France, which effectively allow you to participate in fairs. And the fairs are round by round victory conditions. So each round, a fair is going to be scored, and it's going to tell you to do a thing for points. And if you don't participate in the fair, you don't get to participate in the objective for that round. Bummer. This guy here is the architect. He's going to wander around France, participating in cathedrals. In each town, there are these little cathedrals here. And let's see if we can get a good close-up of one of these. I haven't bought any of the tokens out. Sorry about that. But here we go. So these cathedral spaces are going to give you tons and tons of points. But in order to participate in the cathedral, you have to get your architect there to build a pillar. And then once the pillar's there, you have to trade stone. And then you can have a victory point token. So that's sort of what the architect does. And either one of them can pick up bonus tiles that are going to be loaded all over the board as well. There's an endgame scoring condition that gives you a bunch of points if you manage to put out houses and pillars. Don't have to be in the same town. It's just about getting them out, because they're all going to be locked up here on your board. And this is a whole nother little mini game where you've got these houses on your board. I don't know what all of these things represent, by the way. It's all historical stuff, I guess. But these houses here are a whole mini game where you're going to hire people and they come to live in these houses. And if you fill up the whole house, then you get to unlock the house, and then you can put that out on the board in France somewhere. Up here, you've got contracts that you fulfill. If you fulfill the contracts, you unlock more pillars, so you can get involved in more cathedrals. Over here, you've got a little warehouse for really powerful bonus tiles, but they take up the same spaces as the people and the contracts, and you can only hold 4 at once. And then you've got to make sure you have room for these things. And some of them are like bonus actions that you can spend whenever you want, but you've got to make sure that you save them for when they're valuable, but you still have a premium of space here. Some of them just like give you 2 action points that you can immediately spend for an action. And so this one over here is just get more of the citizens from the citizen marketplace. This is get the contracts from the contracts marketplace. This one over here is the wild. This one over here is the king track. Now this is a little thing that figures out every round here, but you've got this track here, and there's going to be these corruption tokens. And you all start over here on 0, and then the corruption tokens flip over between sort of turns within the round, and you're going to move backwards down this track into these negative point areas unless you get king points to move up the track, and then you're going to get bonus points. So you're trying to manage this corruption track. But you can kind of ignore it. Like, I played this 2-player, and my opponent completely ignored it, and we still had very close scores. So that is not... You don't have to engage with that if you don't want to. And then the final space is, of course, the Jester space, which lets you do any of the other spaces, but at this one's die situation. So tons of stuff going on. You can also spend money to, like, shift a die over, but really the only reason to shift the dies over is if you want a specific resource that's not currently available in that space. It doesn't make the action more powerful because the action's power is locked into this dial that's rotating, and this just rotates every round. You can't move it any other way. So, like, experience, because it's 4 rounds and then it's over. Hang on. There we go. 4 rounds and then it's over. So experienced players might look at this and go, oh, okay, this action's never going to be particularly powerful in this game. I don't know. But each round is 3 dice pulls, and then that round is over. And after 4 rounds of this, the whole game is over, and you do a bunch of final scoring. The thing is, this action point system, right? Like, you pull this die here, you get 6 action points. Those action points can be spent to move your merchant between cities, build houses in the cities, or pick up bonus tiles. And that's not anywhere. And there's no player aid to tell you that. So you just need to memorize that. And it's the same kind of for all of these. I kind of wish they'd done a player aid. I'm sure someone's already making one to be on BGG, so, like, that's a solvable problem. But the more I'm talking about this, the more I remember how much fun I had playing it. And the more I'm reminded about how hobby this is. This game is premium hobby. Like, it demands you understand the concept of action points, and that you know that you can only spend them on certain things, and that you know those things might cost different action points, and also it doesn't give you a player aid to help you with any of it.
There's already a player aid on BGG.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
I say a player. It's just text. It's not like a elegant one yet, but
nobody's made a pretty graphical one.
Yeah, but someone's has made a basic action. What actions you can take and how many points it costs.
Yeah, so to sort of like summarize, not summarize as well, but like to sort of illustrate this point further, these bonus spaces on the board here, like the bonus tiles that can come out into those can be different types of tiles, which includes the contracts and the citizens. So you can find these people. Actually, no, the citizens only come from the citizen spaces, but you can find contracts on the actual game board. Additionally, though, amongst all of these tile pools, the bonus tiles, the citizens, and the contracts, you can get crests. And crests go into the bottom of the houses down here, and you can't complete the houses without putting the crests down here, which costs food, which you get from the pink die, right? But in order to complete the house and unlock the house, in order to put it on the board, you have to have the crest and all the citizens in the house. And then when you do that, you also unlock these little guys here. Based on the size of the house you completed, you can have one of these. And then these go into the rondel and improve the action points in the rondel for that action. And the action is entirely determined by which citizens you put out, because each citizen is associated with an action and also gives you bonus points in that action when you put the citizen into the house. Like, it's just action chaining bonanza. And so if you like that sort of like mental gymnastics of action chaining to the nth degree, you're gonna love this. And if that sounds exhausting, I don't think this is for you, Dan. We played a 2-player game. We learned it probably in about 45 minutes, reading it from the rule book. Neither of us knew how to play. And then we probably played it in about 2 hours, just 2-player. And yeah, I do think I don't know about the downtime at more players. I really enjoyed it too, but it's just a super compelling sort of Euro puzzle, and But like I said, of these kinds of games, this is one of the least forgiving I've seen of this type. They really have not gone to sort of any lengths to make it more accessible. Like even the iconography is pretty much as bare bones as it can be, and there's no player aids whatsoever. But for what it's worth, as an example of this particular kind of thing, I really liked this one. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and we all kind of we. I mean, you kind of have to do a bit of everything, and I do wonder if at the end of the day there's not like I mean actually I'll tell you what, one thing we didn't do was we didn't focus massively on the cathedrals, and I think we had pretty decent scores sort of in the late 100s, 170 something probably. um but I definitely sort of focused very much on optimizing a few things, whereas my opponent was running around and doing cathedrals, did some cathedrals, but was really focused on improving all the houses on his board. And I don't know if that was necessarily as valuable as other options. So there's definitely some avenues to explore, but I don't think it's not the kind of game where you can really specialize in one thing. I think you definitely are sort of optimizing sort of routes through action chaining to do a bit of everything. So there you go. But if you've got a number of these guys' games and you think you've got capacity in your collection for another one because you like them and you like these designs, then you're not going to be disappointed by this. You know, but at the same, I mean, the theme is I don't know what. It is sometime in history, and there are some fairs in France, and you're going to go to the fairs and participate in them. Like, I don't know what the theme was. There's also cathedrals, and I guess we're helping to build those. So it's possibly like sort of medieval religion time. I don't know. I'm not good at history, but also like it's the beige period once again.
Yeah, it's slightly upsetting. I think I'm definitely interested to try it, but I must say the board does look very uninteresting. I don't know what's happening. If that like you said, that's the period of history we're currently in. Is beige boards in board games.
Board game beige board here.
But it's set during the Renaissance though, right?
Okay. What makes you say that?
That's what it says in BG.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, cool. I would have. The thing is, I don't know history super well, so I wouldn't have been able to discern that myself.
The Renaissance was a period in the 15th, 16th century that kind of had it was a more enlightened time with patrons investing heavily in the arts, etc. I know you know this. I'm just what's the word? Patronizing you.
Oh, patronizing me. See, I thought you were going to say you were helping the viewers that might not know.
I think
if we have any young
most
viewers.
People, I think most people know roughly what the Renaissance was, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I understand it was a period in France of peace and prosperity where they invested a lot in,
I think it probably
things
did,
like
cathedrals. It did impact France, but I think it's more. I mean, impacted most of Europe. Frankly, I think it's most commonly associated with Italy.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is like pretty much all of Western Europe, right? I mean, well, no, we've got most of France, Spain cut off, but it's like France and England and Germany and everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I describe it as a period of enlightenment, although not to be confused with the actual Enlightenment.
But yeah, I think you dig this, Chris, for sure.
Yeah,
we both really we both of us really enjoyed it. But like I said, it is a rather heads down Euro affair. There's a little bit of sort of you took my spot or you took this limited thing or because I got there second I got less points kind of going on, but by and large it's really about who observed the best and most optimal chains. But I totally I did a lot of focusing on this king chain, and he completely ignored it, and our scores were very close. We had about 170 and we were within 10 points of each other or something, so it was a very close game in the end.
I just realized I missed an opportunity for a very clever joke when I said I'm patronizing you about the Renaissance.
Patronizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
That was I'm really disappointed that I didn't think of that in time.
Sorry, I'll fix it in post.
Yeah. Don't worry, Mike. I know what. Let me try again. Don't worry, Mike. I know you know what the Renaissance is. I was just offering you my patronage.